Okay, so next on our list of poses is Tadasana or mountain pose. So Tadasana, tada, tada is mountain, and asana, as we know, is our comfortable seat. So at its most basic form, Tadasana is just standing tall. Now, there are a number of different ways that you could have the hands. So you could have the hands relaxing down by the sides. You could have the palms turned to face forward. You'll see this a lot. Sometimes you might have the palms in prayer position. And you may even reach your arms overhead. Now, when we have our arms in different positions, so in some lineages, they might say when the arms are reaching overhead that changes the pose a little bit. But in its most basic form, Tadasana is our mountain pose, and it's just standing pose. So typically, and again, different lineages and different teachers teach different ways. When I teach it, I typically like to have my feet hip distance apart. And the reason for this is that if I find where my hip bones are, the bony parts in front of my hip, and I draw lines straight down so my hip bones line up with the center of my ankles, this way my bones are equally stacked, one on top of the other. So I'm not putting extra pressure by having my feet straight together or too wide apart. So if my my ankles are directly underneath those hip bones, my skeleton is in its natural alignment, and the bones can easily stack one on top of the other. Again, some teachers may guide you in a different way, or you may do the pose with the feet right next to each other. There are different reasons to do different things. So typically if they have the feet right next to each other, they're trying to create more of an energetic lock or a seal with the thighs and the legs pressing together. But the way we're going to practice is feet hip distance apart. So if you're not already there, go ahead and come to standing on your mat and just gaze down at your feet and look and see that your feet are hip distance apart. And you can again find those bony pieces at the front of your hip bones right here, find those big, nice, thick, bony pieces, and you can just draw lines straight down to see, okay, are my ankles directly under my hips? And then also check, notice, are your feet turned out, are they turned in, or is one cocked in a certain way? And if they are, see if you can line them up so that as you bend into the knees glide straight forward, right over the toes. Again, this is the most natural alignment for our bodies. One teacher, if you've ever listened to Katie Bowman, the way she likes to describe it is, you think of the wheels of a car. So, we balance and we align the tires in our car, right? So if we're gonna drive straight, we want the tires and things to drive straight. We don't want the tires cocked out or cocked in, because then they're not gonna be going in the right direction. The car's gonna be doing really weird things if, let's say, both tires are turned out or both tires are turned in. If both tires turn in one direction, then the car is gonna go in that direction. If they turn in the other direction, they're gonna go in that direction. So typically, we want our tires, our legs, knees, etc., to point straight forward. And this is a whole other discussion, because some people will say, oh, my feet are naturally turned out, blah, blah, blah. So we can have a discussion about that later. But just generally know, the idea is in all of our yoga practice and our poses, typically we're going to have the feet pointing straight forward. There are certain poses, let's say there might be a wide-legged pose where we'll turn our feet out on purpose, and then once we get into some of the fancier warrior poses, maybe one foot will be turned out and one won't. But typically when we're standing straight and we want those knees to point forward, the feet are pointing straight forward as well. So again, before we get into the full practice of this pose, one thing I'd like you to think about, or at least a great reminder, is this pose may seem very simple, and it can be, but this is the foundation for all of our standing poses. So it's a great pose to practice, you can stand here, you can scan the body, notice where your tension is, you can practice with your breath, your concentration, your focus, so many things in this pose. And once you get good at practicing all of those things in this particular pose, you can translate those into other standing poses, into some fancier poses, some balancing. We always want to remember that Tadasana is our foundation. Our mountain pose is where we begin. So we should be able to feel just as comfortable in, let's say, Warrior Two as we do in Tadasana. So we can always come back. What does Tadasana feel like? Or if I come into some fancy, balancing pose, how can I imagine that I'm just as strong and just as stable as I am in my Tadasana? So, and I'll keep talking about that as we're going through our practice, but it's just a really nice reminder. So, and the reminder is to not discount anything. Things may seem really simple, but there's usually more to it. And simple is great. We want to start at the beginning. So you're standing with your feet about hip distance apart, and we want to feel into our feet. So we want to feel into the foundation, right? This is where we begin, is with the soles of our feet on the ground. And this is again why we would typically practice barefoot. Some people like to practice with grippy socks, but we actually want to feel the connection of our feet to whatever it is we're practicing on the ground, our mat, a rug, whatever it is. So we're going to practice feeling into our feet a little bit so we can start to experience kind of all of the angles and all of the parts and pieces of our feet. So let's go ahead and rock back and forth. And you can bend into your knees if you like. We don't want to just have straight legs and be kind of like a Gumby stick figure. So go ahead and bend into your knees and just rock back on the heels and the balls of your feet. And as you're rocking forward, you can press into the toes. So just rock forward and back. And while you're doing this, you can either gaze at one non-moving point, not at your screen, it may be something above it. Either gaze at one non-moving point or just close your eyes and see how much you can experience of your feet. So really, what do my heels feel like? What do the balls of the feet feel like? What do the toes feel like? And where's my center point? And where is the point where I come off balance? Where am I starting to fall forward? And where am I starting to fall back? So just keep rocking forward and back, feeling into those feet. Good, and then begin to slow that rocking and see if you can find that place where you're at perfect center. So now the legs might straighten up. We still don't want to hyperextend. I don't want to press my knees back behind me. I don't want to lock my knees, but I can allow my legs to straighten. So I'm pressing down equally between the heels and the balls of the feet. The toes are not gripping into the ground. The toes are just gently pressed down, but I feel as though all of the weight is right at the center of the foot, right at the center of the arch. So I'm not leaning forward, I'm not leaning back. I am at that perfect center of both feet, whatever that means. So feel that. And notice, oh wait, I'm starting to put more weight into my heels. Oh wait, I'm starting to put more weight into the balls of my feet and my toes. Find that center. Ground down through the center of the feet. Good, so now we have our center in this kind of forward and back direction, and we're gonna see what it's like to move off to the side. So from this forward and back center, now we're gonna shift the weight from side to side. So again, you can find that gaze, that one non-moving point, and look there, not at your screen. Or you can close your eyes. So we're just shifting the hips from right to left, noticing what it feels like, and you can even accentuate a little bit more, rolling onto the sides of the feet. Good, so feel what it's like to be off center in each direction. And as you're kind of rolling through center, notice where that center point is. Okay, I'm at center now. Okay, I'm off center. So notice where that center point is. And then begin to slow the sway, nice and slow, and find your way back to center. Good. And then pause where you feel center is. And then if you're not sure if you're completely centered, try closing your eyes. Shift the weight slightly off center even more. And then bring yourself back to a place where you feel, oh, okay, there it is. Yep, my hip bones are stacked on top of my ankles. All the bones are stacked one on top of the other. And once you found that center point, just pause. Allow the arms to dangle down by your sides. Feel as though you're pressing down, actively pressing down through the center of your feet. And at the same time, as you press down, the rest of the body is lengthening up. The spine lengthens up. You're lifting up, and it's almost like, some people like to describe it as if there's a cord coming out the center of your skull. So it's like your spine continues up through the skull, and you've got this cord just gently pulling you up taller. Good. So the spine is nice and long here. You'll just feel that your back's in a natural curve. We're not at military attention. I don't have extra tension in my shoulders, my chest. I just have a nice long spine. The shoulders are soft. You may feel like to hold yourself up. You may be gently pulling the navel in. That's fine. But feel as though you're pressing. You're actively pressing down through the feet, and you're actively lengthening up. You are so stable and strong here. Good. Now keeping the body in that same position. Now we can try some alternative versions. So now try turning the palms to face forward. Energy through the fingers. So extending those fingers out, nice and strong. Notice how the chest opens up a bit when we turn our palms to face forward. And just pay attention to your breath. Inhale, exhale. Jaw is relaxed. So this could be one version of Tadasana. Still grounding down through the feet. Make sure you haven't rocked forward or back. Pressing down actively through the soles of the feet. Good. Now take the arms straight up overhead. Palms face forward. And just lengthen those arms up. Feel as though you're extending through your armpits. Reaching, reaching, reaching up. Feet grounding down. Navel gently pulls and lengthen up, lengthen up, lengthen up, lengthen up. Reach up high. And just take some active breaths here. Nothing challenging. I'm just paying attention to my breath. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose if you can. Reaching up. Good. And now bring the palms together. And bring them down to heart center. Lining up the wrists with the elbows if you can. So pressing those palms together. This is another version. Standing tall in mountain pose. And additionally now I'm pressing my palms together. Activating the marma points in the palms. So these energetic centers in our palms. Notice your heart beating. Just paying attention to your breath. Inhale, exhale. Feet grounding down. For another moment, if the eyes are open, go ahead and close them. And just notice all of the sensations in the body. Notice how it feels to just stand here tall and strong, actively standing. Notice how the body feels. Notice the breath in your body. And then once again, just relax the arms down by the sides. And then notice what you feel. Scan through the body, top of the head down to the soles of your feet. Notice what areas feel alive and energized. Notice how it feels to stand. Notice your strength here. Notice your groundedness here. Notice your stability. Just take a couple more breaths as you are. Tadasana, mountain pose. Good. Then take a little break and just shake it out. Shake it out. So one thing to pay attention to, and like I mentioned a little bit earlier, is this mountain pose, this Tadasana, may seem like just a very simple and easy pose, and in some ways, yes, it is. But notice how you feel. Do you feel like you've actually done some work? Is your heart beating a little bit? Do you feel movement? Do you feel the blood pumping through your veins? Do you feel that energy, which we call prana? Do you feel that moving through your body? I certainly do. So it can be something as simple as standing in this pose, actively paying attention to the body and the breath. As simple as maybe reaching my arms up overhead. I'm opening up these energy channels as I'm reaching overhead. So our practice can be so simple. I can gain so much just from practicing something as simple as this Tadasana. But maybe it's also not so simple. We can fine-tune adjustments in so many ways. And again, you'll hear me or other teachers guide you through different things. You'll hear, lift the kneecaps, draw the navel in, all these different things. But the idea is just to be conscious, aware, and like we discussed earlier, it's an asana. So the idea is to take a comfortable seat. How can I be comfortable in this mountain pose? How can I be most stable, aware, present, and comfortable in this pose? And that's our reminder for all of the poses that we do. And one last reminder, again, Tadasana being the foundation for all of our standing poses in our yoga practice.